Hello everybody, what is up, and welcome to the one and only episode 1 of the official PlayStation podcast of PlayStation Follower. My name is Christian Buckley, and I'm joined by the newest follower staff member and other half to the channel, Omar Nakvi.
Hello.
So basically what this series is a more laid-back, discussion-focused talk show where myself, Omar, and maybe a few PSN friends now and then get together and tell you about all of our thoughts and opinions on the ongoings in the PlayStation world and game industry in 4 different segments that get released in daily installments Monday through Thursday. But if you're a completionist, you can just listen to the whole thing in its entirety every Friday on YouTube or an MP3 format. So, starting out our inaugural episode, we're going to be talking about what we've been playing recently. So, past few days, I've been checking out the Ghost Recon Wildlands beta.
How was that?
So I started it last night.
Yeah.
I downloaded it, and my Wi-Fi here at my college is awful, so it took forever, but our friend Brandon was playing the single player of it that is offered in the beta, so I was texting him and trying to find out his thoughts on it. The single player for him, he said that it was very bland, because basically how it works is when you're doing multiplayer, you can have up to 3 other players with you to form your ghost team. But if you're playing by yourself, the other 3 slots are filled with AI, and the AI is not great.
Oh, man.
So, especially if one of the big comparisons, or one of the big aspects from what I noticed during when I played, I tried out the single player a little bit. The AI companions are not great, especially when you're trying to do stealth, because they're pulling some, early PS3 level AI out of their hats with what they're offering. Really sort of detracts from the whole experience, but once I was able to actually get on and do co-op, that's where the game shines. You can draw comparisons specifically to other games in the genre. What I thought it felt like the most was Just Cause, but co-op mixed with Far Cry.
Are there grappling hooks?
There are none, sadly.
Okay.
But it is pretty, funny, some of the stuff that goes on. It's not like Just Cause level humor, but it's
Good physics stuff, like ragdolling and everything?
oh yeah, it's crazy.
Awesome.
So I just remember this though. One of the things was I was going down the slope of a mountain on a dirt bike, and I have footage of this, so this will be in here, but I hit a fence, I think, going down a hill, and I probably flew at least 100 meters away down the mountain from where my bike landed, and I just straight up died. Some of the stuff, physics-wise, you can do is pretty funny. It adds some character and humor to it. I think the biggest issue I've had, though, is the controls.
Yeah, you mentioned something. I also heard this, too, about the driving being poor, right?
Yeah, the driving's awful.
Yeah. What's the deal with that?
There's no other way to put it except it's terrible.
Yeah.
But it's like GTA 4 level controlling, handling.
So, pretty slow, then?
It's slow, it's sluggish, it's really, sliding all over the place. I feel like I have no control going down hills on bikes. Even with cars, it feels like I'm driving on ice, and not in a slightest movement slides me somewhere. It's just it's really an effort to try and turn on to the side roads. Can
you jump off the bike while you're going down the hill?
Yeah, you can pull some Vin Diesel moves.
Okay. Wheelman.
Yeah, just sort of kick it off and slide down a little bit and stand up, but control-wise, I had to turn the sensitivity for aiming, the camera when I'm driving, the actual driving, and moving up to 100, which is the max, because the default was 40-something, and I could barely aim. I was getting shot at left and right. I had no chance of aiming on people in the amount of time I needed to actually have a chance at survival.
Could you feel like there was a decent amount of auto aim, though? Could you kind of move the camera just kind of ever so slightly around the enemy, then left trigger, would it hit the headshot?
I haven't explored the control menu a lot, but
Okay.
I think there is options for that. There were options for the dead zone for the controller, so you can heighten that if you want it or
Right.
have it be non-existent. I don't know if it was an auto aim. There might have been an aim assist thing. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think the best thing the game has going for it is the co-op, because from my experience playing both, I put probably about 3 hours in, 2 last night, 1 this morning, and I like it a lot. I feel like I'll play it a lot if I have people to play it with.
So how do you? So this is a Ubisoft game, right?
Yes.
So like, how do you feel about it? Like, how I feel like with a lot of Ubisoft games, it kind of feels like they have that one blueprint that they kind of modify ever so slightly. Like, say with a Far Cry and Assassin's Creed and like Watch Dogs. Do you feel like some of the mission design in this is similar to that? Like, are there towers in this basically? Can you
There's
climb
no
towers?
towers.
Whoa.
There's no towers.
What?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. But yeah, there's no towers, but what they have, it's sort of similar to Metal Gear 5 in the way it's laid out on the map. Enemy bases all around the whole really like barren natural environments and mountains and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the beta offers 6 missions, I think, and a lot of side missions you can do. It sort of is more limited in its variety of approaching missions than certain other Ubisoft games or even like Metal Gear. It might have just been because there were only 2 of us, because the squad doesn't autofill if you're playing co-op. It's however many people you have with you.
Okay.
Um,
I assume the game balance probably changes though, right? I would hope.
I haven't been able to try it,
Okay.
but like there hasn't been a good way to test it. But
True.
basically how we approached each base and every mission we did was we went to both sides of the entrance to enemy bases. Like we each covered a side. We pulled out the drone, mapped out the entire base, put hits and markers on every enemy like you can do in Metal Gear.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference between this and Metal Gear stealth-wise is Metal Gear, it never feels impossible.
Right.
This, there's like insurmountable odds for approaching it if you don't do stealth.
So there's like, with Metal Gear, yeah, it feels like every means is viable. Mm-hmm. But with this, it's like there's almost just one way, you think?
It could be different if you have 4 people playing with you.
Okay.
But yeah, with 2 players, it's going up against maybe like 15 to 20 enemies in one base that can call in reinforcements if you're too slow with killing all of them.
Oh, so are there outposts then?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's basically what the beta offers you to do. You have to go into outposts, but they're like smaller bases, sort of, and you can kill a certain amount of people. Sometimes you have targets that you have to interrogate. Sometimes you have intel you have to find. It seems like the mission structure was sort of very similar, but the side quests offered a lot more variety. There were a couple side missions where we just had to kill someone like in the others. There were some where we had to steal a helicopter or a plane that was full of supplies, gathering intel from different wiretapping, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the main way to succeed in it is stealth. And I mean, it makes sense since it is Ghost Recon, but doesn't really seem like there's other options.
So like you said something about interrogation.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like a scripted thing, or is there like dialogue choices and stuff?
It's scripted.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just like you go up to him, hit triangle, and you put a gun next to his head and yell at him.
All right.
So that was really it for that. But yeah, go. I hope it's good. I'm gonna be getting a copy of it. I don't know when.
Okay.
Either before launch or on launch. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to putting more time into it, seeing what else it has to offer, because a large portion of the map is locked off. Yeah,
it looks like a pretty big map, right? Like it's
the game in the beta. The map feels pretty big, but probably an hour into playing last night, I opened the map and I just zoomed out all the way. There's a large portion, probably like 4 or 5 times the size of what they give you in the beta, that isn't accessible right now.
Dang.
So I really want to see what other type of environment variability they have.
Did you like the map? Like, because with Metal Gear Solid 5, like, I didn't really ever like the maps. Like, they were fun to be in, but they aren't, like, memorable, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Kind of. It is really barren.
Yeah.
It's never.
Okay.
There could be like cities or like smaller towns that are just other places that aren't accessible right now.
Yeah, like, are the outposts just, like, bases where people will shoot you, or are they, like, kind of, like, lived in?
They're sort of more along the lines of just
Like Far
probably
Cry?
5 to 10 buildings grouped in one area with a bunch of guys and some vehicles. And
No, okay.
but the gameplay is fun if there's more people because it offers more variety on what you can do. You can split up, you can regroup, you can go after random things, and a lot of the side quests just pop up out of nowhere,
Yeah.
which is fun. It's definitely not bad, but I think like I enjoyed what I played, and I think if they tweak some of the issues I have with the controls, it'll help a lot, I think.
Yeah, that sounds cool then, because, like, I kind of forgot about this game, but it's out, like, next week, right?
Yeah, well, Ubisoft's been pretty weird with their betas because they did the same thing sort of with For Honor.
Right.
Yeah, so hope it's good. What about you? What have you been playing?
I've been playing some Night in the Woods. I finished it up. It's this it's developed by Infinite Fall, which they describe this game as a 2D story focused exploration game, I believe. It was kickstarted in 2013. It's got some neat things going for it, where visually it's like super gorgeous. Like, it has some of the nicest 2D art I've ever seen in a video game, and all of it is like so incredibly animated. And it's like, I'll set up the story just a little bit, but you play as Mae Borowski, who is a sophomore in college who just dropped out and now returns to her hometown of Possum Springs. And the stuff they do to make Possum Springs feel like a lived-in town, it's pretty great. Super atmospheric. The soundtrack is brilliant. There's a bunch of neat little touches in that game too, where there's a good, like, you have a laptop and you have the PS4 touchpad lets you move the cursor with it, which is just a little cute thing basically, but it's nice. It's a fun thing. But I ended up having a problem with how long that game is. It's like 9 hours.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it kind of just does like one thing, which is just dialogue trees over and over again, which is, some of the dialogue is really good, some of it isn't, but like it just becomes really tedious after a point when you're just buttoning through the dialogue over and over again, because there's also like no voice acting, or like there's no variation ever to how they tell the story.
Oh, okay.
It's just the dialogue over and over again, right? It has some neat things going for it, but it doesn't really ever feel like it comes together in a way. There's some good characters in it, but yeah, I don't think I'd recommend it, maybe.
Okay, well, yeah, I've been interested in it. I follow the devs on Twitter, and they're really like passionate about it, which is cool. But I really dig the vibe of it. It's
definitely got a really cool vibe. Like, again, the first few hours of that game I played were awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I think most of my problem comes from just how long it was, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think it's paced pretty poorly.
So, like, what is the rest of the gameplay like besides the dialogue? Is it just like walking around, or is it like?
Yeah, it's just walking around. It's just like kind of like a Telltale game, right? No puzzles really. You just walk around from place to place. It actually has some really good platforming in it. Like, it's not a platformer, don't get me wrong here, but like the controls are very tight. It feels good.
That's
but
good then.
There's not really any platforming sections or anything. Like,
okay.
I don't know. I'm really curious to see what these guys would do next, because they have the talent to do a bunch of stuff, I think.
How big is their studio? Do you know?
I believe it's 3 people.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
How long has this been in development?
Well, the Kickstarter started in like October 2013.
Okay.
Yeah, if you guys want to check it out, there's a supplemental game they've released on PC maybe a year ago called Lost Constellation. It's on itch.io or something, itch.io. You can check that out. It's free. It'll give you a good idea if you'll like this game or not. So, Yeah, I had some problems with it, but I think some people might really like it. So
That's cool then.
yeah,
Yeah, I definitely want to check it out at some point. I think it's $20 right now.
yeah, maybe 18 with plus if you have that.
Okay, well,
It's
yeah.
also out on Steam if you want.
Okay, yeah. If it has a sale in the next couple months, I might pick it up then. But yeah, that's kind of a little upsetting to hear that it's not all there. But
It's really interesting sometimes. But yeah, I don't know. It's way too long.
yeah, well, 9 hours for $20 and a lot of the same stuff seems a little
Yeah, I think that
like
game would benefit from being shorter,
underwhelming.
and still worth the $20, which is shorter.
You're gonna review it, right?
I believe so. I'm working on that.
All right, cool. So, second segment of the show is going to be going over the new and upcoming titles for the PlayStation 4 every Tuesday. Omar, go ahead.
Yeah, we base this off of Ryan Clemens' list on the PlayStation blog. He writes up a list every week that he calls the drop, where he lists out all the retail and digital PlayStation releases each and every Tuesday. So our aim here is to pick out some of the most notable ones, and we can talk about those a bit. So here we have the most notable titles coming to PS4 for the week of February 28th.
Horizon Zero Dawn is an exhilarating new open-world action RPG exclusively for PS4, developed by the award-winning Guerrilla Games, developers of Killzone. Take on the role of skill hunter Aloy as you explore a vibrant and lush world inhabited by mysterious mechanized creatures. This coming Tuesday on the 28th. I'm not picking it up day one, but you are.
Yeah, this game looks good, man. I don't know. I've never really been much of a Guerrilla Games fan. I didn't really like any of the Killzones. I bought a PS4 on day one with a copy of Knack and Killzone Shadowfall. I finished Knack. I don't think they've been the most promising before, but the reviews coming out for this are quite hot. It looks really good.
Yeah, lots of tens.
I was really surprised at the praise for the storytelling, because not that I was expecting a bad story or anything, but it just seemed like it could have been such easy sci-fi fare that I don't know.
Yes.
I guess I really shouldn't have been surprised though, because the best part about the Killzone games are the lore usually.
Yeah, that is true. I think I haven't played all the Killzone games. I played Killzone 2, I think, and if there was a PSP version, I think I played the PSP version.
Liberation.
Probably.
Yeah,
but
it's the isometric.
I think so. I don't know if Guerrilla made that one though, but
I think Cambridge did before they got shut down this year, which is a shame.
Rip. Yeah, I think Guerrilla taking on a new thing like this. I'm pretty sure, based on all the positivity already, this is their new thing. Like they're not gonna do Killzone anymore.
It seems like it's over, and plus they shut down again. Killzone. Guerrilla Games Cambridge. So I feel like if anyone was gonna take it after them, they've been done. So.
Well, this would be the perfect time for PlayStation to get an exclusive shooter back in its lineup, and that would be Resistance.
Yeah, I would. I'm all for that,
so-
man. I think Insomniac is one of the most talented devs we have.
Now, especially with all these open worlds games coming out for PlayStation exclusives, if they want to do a shooter, Resistance, time is now. Get back into it. But yeah, with Horizon, I think I read the supposedly leaked ending. Apparently, that's not what the real ending is now.
Yeah, I still wouldn't say it though.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
It might be. I've just been told it wasn't.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna go into spoilers or anything, but based on what I read, I still wasn't that sold on it. It seemed really generic, and it reminded me of a million other early 2000s sci-fi movies.
Yeah, I'm honestly fine with a good generic sci-fi plot if it's told well, because that's the most interesting way to do it. Honestly, actually, yeah, I'm not gonna. I was gonna praise Arrival for a bit here, where it's the sci-fi plot is fine, but the way they tell it and they approach it with the linguistics aspect is the most interesting part about it. So
yeah, I think based on what I've been reading of reception from this, lots of people are praising it specifically on the way they tell the story, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And Aloy's character. But a lot of the downsides, if any, that I've been seeing are the character interactions, which is something that's kind of been putting me off for a little bit because I've seen a lot of comparisons to Fallout as far as character interactions go.
I saw that one video. Did you see that video with that the really bad side quest about that guy who was considering jumping off that cliff or something?
No.
It was like really, it was animated super poorly. The voice acting was real bad.
Was that?
I think I did send it to you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I probably watched it then. But yeah, from what I've seen, it looks like a gorgeous game. Like the environments and everything, it looks fantastic. But there was just something that wasn't drawing me in. But now that I'm seeing all this stuff and I've been seeing more impressions and more gameplay that isn't just shooting dinosaurs, I'm more, yeah, I'm definitely more interested in it, and I might pick it up closer to the summer because, again, there is just so much going on right now with the games industry. Plus, I have college classes, so yeah.
I've been told that you should play Horizon before you play Zelda if you want to enjoy Horizon.
Wow.
Not to be that guy, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I'm sure there's already a sequel being worked on.
Yeah, I hear the game actually wraps up really nicely into a way where it definitively ends, which sounds interesting. I wanted to mention back on the character interaction point where that clip I was sending around actually apparently isn't representative of the whole game. I actually saw people praise the side quest character interactions and all that.
Oh wow,
which sounds interesting. Like apparently, I think I saw people saying like, well, the side quests aren't like Witcher territory in being quality. They are definitely leagues above Fallout.
Okay.
So like, it seems like a cool mix, man. I don't know. It always looked promising, but the thing that always kept me away was that it was a guerrilla game, where I've never been too confident in their stuff.
Now, especially, I'm more interested in Horizon. So, yeah, we're definitely going to be covering more of that in the coming weeks. But
I can't believe how good it looks too. By the way, like
yeah, it
looks really
good.
gorgeous. Bodes well for Kojima's game when that comes out.
Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like when I saw some of the stuff, a lot of people were just posting stuff from the photo mode. So I've seen tons of Horizon on my Twitter feed recently. Environment wise, like lighting, everything, it looks great, and it does get me really excited for Kojima's.
It looks also like on the PS4 base PS4. It looks really solid there too, and apparently performs well. So that's pretty great.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a Pro.
Yeah, true. Moving on with the drop, if we're done with Horizon.
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool. So, Suikoden 4 is coming. It's a PS2 classic.
It's coming out on PS3 though, right? Not PS4.
That is what the drop post said.
Okay.
But a couple comments said it's coming to PS4, so might have been a typo. But, so yeah, Suikoden 4 is a prequel to the acclaimed role-playing series Suikoden. Suikoden 4 reveals the origins of the Rune of Punishment. Although set in the past, Suikoden 4 has no shortage of innovation, as it features a tactical formation system and more than 60 playable characters. I have never played a Suikoden game.
Nah, me neither, man. I hear this is actually like the worst one.
Oh, really?
I have no idea. That's what I was just reading. I hear it's like you're on a boat the whole time. Maybe I've got the wrong information here. But
so
people really like. I think Suikoden 2 is the one I see getting the most praise.
Yeah, I've heard Suikoden. Like whenever I've listened to just people talking about some of the best or better earlier PlayStation games, Suikoden 2 pops up a lot. So I put this on here just because of the name, because I associate that with being good from what I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, Suikoden 4. It's interesting. Why are they putting this out? Is there a new one coming out?
No, I don't. Who publishes it? Is it? It's not Konami, is it?
I don't think so. I'm not sure.
Is it Konami? Can I fact check this?
Yeah, go ahead. But
I feel like I don't think you're gonna get a new Suikoden, but I think it's actually like really expensive to get a copy of this game though on like eBay.
Okay, well that makes more sense.
Yeah, see, it's put out by Konami, so like I would never expect another Suikoden game then. Sorry.
Yeah, true. Well, I mean, we're getting a new Bomberman.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah,
we're getting that game.
I'm really curious though as to why this is coming now. if it's like an anniversary or something, but like why bring this as a PS2 classic? That's also been something that, if it is coming to PS4, just makes this even more valid. I don't know why they've dedicated... I mean, I know why, but like, why are they just putting very obscure titles for the PS2 classics, and why are they coming out so slowly, you know?
Yeah, it's something I want to see them take more advantage of, you know? Because, like, I have, like, 5 or 6 PS2 games on my PS3. I have, like, 2 on my PS4. It feels like they've been going at such a slow pace. I guess they're actually, like, trying to do work to them and, like, add trophies. But,
if they are adding trophies to all of them, then yeah, I guess that makes up for it a bit. But it seems like they're coming out at such a slow pace.
well, I also feel like maybe some of these devs, like, you kind of see this with Xbox One backwards compatibility sometimes, where some of these devs don't want to release the PS2 Classic because they actually are instead thinking of remastering the game.
Yeah, that's
In the
true
case
too.
of Suikoden, I don't think Konami is ever going to put out that game again and do work to it. So maybe that's why.
Off the top of my head, there might be maybe somewhere between 20 to 30 PS2 classics available on the store in total.
On PS4?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm almost positive at least half of those are Rockstar games.
Yeah, Rockstar takes advantage of it because also they've never really been too big on remasters, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Because, I mean, like, there are noticeable absences of things that I'd really like to see them go after with PS2 classics. Like, where is Jak and Daxter? They're not going to remake that again. Like,
I
why
bet you they
not?
will, or at least they'll have that on the back burner to remaster that at some point. Or you know what? Maybe they'll pull a Ratchet and Clank and get someone to do a reimagining of it.
Oh my god, I would go crazy if that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I think.
It won't be Naughty Dog, but it'd be cool.
Oh yeah, definitely not. But I mean, they're doing it with Crash, so
Right.
hopefully. But yeah, I think PS2 classics are definitely something that need to be sort of taken advantage of more. More so than that, though, PlayStation 1 classics, those still aren't available at
Yeah,
all.
that's insane. I don't know what they're doing with that.
Yeah, I don't either. Like, there's so many that I'd want to just have. Like, unless they're pulling the Final Fantasy VII treatment and, like, completely, like, porting it from the PC version, if there are PC versions of some of these PS1 games, and then adding trophies, but
That was all
my
Square
knowledge-
though. That wasn't Sony. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say, I think the only reason that happened was, one, because of the remake, and two, I think that's an isolated incident. There hasn't been another PS1 game that's been added.
yeah,
like that.
You're right.
So, yeah, I don't know what they're doing.
I would like them to put. Recently, I got way into the Yakuza series, and I played through 0, and then I wanted to play Yakuza 1 and 2, because they're only available on the PS2 here. There was actually an HD remaster in Japan, but all we have here is the PS2 stuff. It would be awesome if they put that on the PS4,
Yeah, see,
because buying a PS2 copy of those games costs about $50 each.
yeah, I don't know why they don't do this more often. It doesn't, like, if they even want to just, like, put this to a different studio and give them a small chunk of whatever it makes, like, it seems like it's easy money.
Yeah, I mean, you remember the PSP to PS3 remaster initiative they started last gen, where it's like
Didn't that only do, like, 2 games?
yeah, only 2 games. It was like Monster Hunter and maybe some anime thing.
Next up on the drop list is A King's Tale Final Fantasy 15.
What?
So,
What is that?
I'll tell you.
All right.
Set in a fictitious 30 years before Final Fantasy 15, this game features retro-style visuals centered around a fast-paced combat system with influences from modern gaming. What does that mean?
Yeah. What is this?
I don't know what that means, but the in-depth combat system blends intense action, intense attacks, devastating magic, mighty summons, and unique companion attacks into a singular gaming experience through 3 diverse locations in the world of Final Fantasy 15. And this comes out
Niflheim.
on March 1st.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Actually, I think I do. It's like that GameStop pre-order bonus, which is like some pixel art beat 'em up thing with Final Fantasy 15 characters.
It looks really cool.
It
Like,
does look cool. I don't think it looks like an accurate pixel art thing. It can't run on SNES or NES hardware.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's like, isn't it only like $5, I think?
Is it $5?
It might be.
That
I'm not
sounds
sure.
like an okay price to pay.
Yeah, I mean, if it's $5 for like a sort of retro type thing of Final Fantasy 15, that seems cool. Like,
Yeah, I think it's a prequel,
yeah, it
but
is.
I
It
don't know
says
if it's like a canon prequel.
it
Cause
says set in a fictitious 30 years before Final Fantasy 15.
so that's not canon though, is it?
No.
That's weird.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's like he plays King Regis or if it's like
I think
just
you do
some.
play as King Regis, or at least he's one of your buddies. But I think Noctis is in there too.
What?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, well,
That's weird.
it's Square being Square, doing a new game, different property or same property. Lastly, though, we have the physical release of The Walking Dead Season 3, or the New Frontier. A New Frontier is what it's being called. I've yet to pick it up. I'm probably going to wait for when it's a full playable game.
See you in 2018.
Wait, what?
No, I'm just saying it's been it. The first episodes for that came out in December, and there's been no word on anything since.
Oh, really?
I don't think it's coming. It's gonna finish until like very late 2017.
That's weird. Well. Do you think they're using the double episode launch as an excuse to take more time?
Maybe, but I feel like that's crap then, because then I would have much rather have episode 1 in December than episode 2 in like, January or February.
That's weird because Batman was monthly.
Well, Batman was great in terms of how they released that stuff.
Yeah,
Like, that was the first time Telltale got their method good.
Yeah, and like I love Batman. The Batman game they did was like one of my, I think it was like my second game of the year for last year.
It was really
like,
good.
I loved it. Yeah,
It's a good game.
But Walking Dead, I've played through the first 2 seasons. I haven't played season 3 yet, so I don't know how it's being received. But
Man, I actually really enjoyed the first 2 episodes.
mhm.
I think it's much more promising than season 2 so far.
That's good to hear then.
Yeah, episode 2 ends with like a huge cliffhanger though, which I'm kind of mad they haven't addressed it yet.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Damn. Well, season 3 is supposed to be adding more comic storylines, right?
Yeah, maybe. I think it's in
Or
canon
at least
with the
characters, right?
Yeah, something like that. Is it in canon now with the TV show and comic? I can't remember.
I think they said it was canon with the comic, not the TV show.
Okay, I feel like someone said that Clementine's going to show up in this new season of The Walking Dead, which I wasn't sure if they were being real or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that yet.
That'd be weird.
I don't see a reason for them to do it yet as far as storyline goes. It feels like I've been keeping up with it mostly, but it seems like they've been kind of tied up with the whole Negan storyline. So I don't know if they're going to want to bring Clementine in. But yeah, as far as season 3 goes, I know the trailer had the character Jesus from the Walking Dead comics, and he's on the show, but I know he's supposed to be involved in season 3 somehow.
Yeah, he's in there, I think. I know who you're talking about.
Oh, already?
Yeah, he was in episode 2.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know.
So,
I didn't
yeah.
realize he was some character. Okay. That's interesting.
Yep, so this is the retail release with the season pass that is going to be coming out this coming Tuesday. Do you have any other Walking Dead thoughts to wrap that up?
Not really, other than I hope they get that stuff out,
Yeah, well, do you think, when is Guardians of the Galaxy supposed to come out? May?
I imagine they will time it with the movie, so probably. And it's coming out on the Switch too, right? Or maybe that was just a rumor.
No, I think it is.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I bet May sounds likely then, because that's when the movie comes out, right? Or is it April?
Guardians is May. Yeah, Guardians is May because Spider-Man's July.
Damn.
Yeah, well, got a lot of Marvel stuff coming this year.
Where's Spider-Man on my PS4?
That's so far out.
Yeah, I know.
Let's probably, if we're lucky, we'll get it by the end of next year.
I think we'll get it. I'll say summer next year.
Okay, that's fair too.
I feel like it isn't that far out, but it's definitely like 2 years before Death Stranding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, hopefully Walking Dead is wrapped up by then. Thirdly, on our list of segments, we're going to be covering the ongoing PlayStation news over the past week, taking out some highlights, discussing thoughts and things on what's going on with PlayStation. First off, though, is a tweet from, I believe, PlayStation of Europe. Might be wrong, don't remember. But it is in regards to the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, and in the tweet they said, Crash is coming to PS4 and PlayStation 4 Pro first on July 30th, I think, is when it's coming out.
Yeah, no, June 30th.
June 30th, then. So that could mean a few different things, but from the way it's worded, it sounds like it's going to be a timed exclusive.
It totally is.
Mm-hmm.
I would bet on it. I don't know if Sony actually owns the rights to the first 3 games. And Activision doesn't actually need their funding to make this, I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't know. I think Activision probably owns all of those properties when they bought that license, right?
Yeah, and I think, I'm not sure, because it's kind of upsetting to hear that, just because it seemed like PlayStation was getting a mascot back, because they really lack that as far as something to market with, you know?
Yeah, I get what you
It's
mean.
not a huge deal.
What were you saying?
I was going to say, it's not a huge deal having one. I think it just, like, adds something, you know?
I think we're past that mascot stuff, man. Like, in terms of, like, Master Chief doesn't even sell Xboxes anymore. Well, okay, I'm sorry. But he's not, like, the head of Xbox, right, in the way that you think anymore. Like,
yeah.
You know, it's... Sackboy was kind of a mascot for a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, even with PlayStation, though, it seems like the past few years it's been, like, Kratos and Nathan Drake, you know? Like, those have been the 2 faces you associate with it.
I feel like it's never really been a mascot, though. We've never really had one. Like, I don't know. I get the idea of mascot stuff, but even, like, remember the PlayStation All-Star Battle Royale thing? Where they put in, like, a bunch of mascots, but it still didn't feel like any of them was, like, too much like PlayStation. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like,
yeah, I feel that, because
was Crash actually in that game? By the way, I don't think he was. Was he?
He wasn't.
Okay.
No, he wasn't. Crash and Spyro weren't in it. I think the closest thing they had to that was Parappa. Yeah, but I think mainly because of just how PlayStation has handled its IP over the past 2 decades, it's been like not great as far as preservation goes, so I think that's probably the reason why there's never been a clear mascot since the 90s. But
well, I wonder too is if it's just because of Sony's like vast how to say, they kind of like with Nintendo, right? You know, they have Mario and Zelda, or like Mario and Link or whatever. Like those are their 2 games they've been working on for a while. Well, at Sony, they've always kind of had a good range of stuff they were working on.
Yeah.
Where I feel like they might not have a mascot, but it's more like they just have a bunch of stuff that's decent and worth checking out.
Yeah, that does make sense. I mean, like they sort of take the widest spectrum in mind when making games for their system, I guess, because they do try and have exclusive shooters. They do have action games. They have their own Tomb Raider. They have Horizon, which is basically their own Ubisoft game. So it's like
they have really good first-party content, you know.
Yeah, they definitely do. I think they, especially this generation, and more so probably starting with the last couple of years of the PS3, I think they've had a leg up when it comes to first-party.
I think now is when we're finally getting to that pace, though, because like before we had like Bloodborne, right? Mm-hmm. And that was the first good exclusive, I think. Mm-hmm. And then it took us until like, I don't know, then we got Ratchet and Clank and Uncharted within the same month, which was great.
Mm-hmm. I think, well, what I was saying was more license-wise, but yeah, I definitely agree. There hasn't really been, like, this generation release-wise.
It's been slower for first parties than it was last generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, well, I'm glad they're finally getting everything together when it comes to first-party releases. Yeah. Because it's been a while. The past few falls have been rough with exclusives because it's just sort of been second-party, third-party, big titles.
That's kind of what matters, though, so far this generation. It's like, you know, I think the exclusives aren't as important as they used to be.
Yeah, and it's kind of upsetting.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
I mean, the reason I've always liked PlayStation was just because I think their exclusives are more appealing to me.
Totally.
So I'm just glad it's finally, especially with Crash Remaster looking all great coming out finally. That's good. But speaking of remasters, you mentioned earlier that there's been Shenmue stuff going on.
Yeah, I guess here I had the article from I believe Rice Digital in the UK.
Hmm.
Said they say they have a source close to Atlas USA who's revealing that a Shenmue HD remaster will be released this year. That includes both games. This has been rumored for a little bit now. I believe there was a Sega registered a domain for a Shenmue HD remaster at some point.
How recent was that? Do you know?
I don't know how. I think I want to say it was like around the time they announced Shenmue 3, maybe.
Okay.
But I don't know. There, back in last generation too, there was a whole thing about a rumor that there was a Shenmue HD remaster finished for the 360 that was like all ready to go, but they never released it. I don't know if that rumor was actually true, but it seemed like it had some truth to it. So I don't know. It seems like a perfect thing to do to release this before Shenmue 3 comes out.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I never played Shenmue, so if they do, I'll definitely probably check it out because the hype behind it seems worth checking out at least. As
It's a
far
really
as
interesting piece of history, but I feel like those games have aged probably terribly.
well, isn't like 90% of it QuickTime?
No,
Like,
well, I mean,
oh, it's
like
not.
a lot of the combat is quick time. Well, not a
Mm.
lot, but like there is a bunch of quick time stuff in there. But it's mostly just like the game was doing Telltale stuff before Telltale did it. In terms of
Okay.
super slow story, not slow, but well, it is slow in Shenmue's case, but slow story exploration stuff that kind of drags on for a bit.
I feel like this might end up being the next Last Guardian because there's been no progress that we've heard about since it was announced, right?
These things take time, man. I feel like they're going to. I think I heard that they're going to full production as of this year. So
Okay.
I was supposed to come out in December of this year, but Kickstarter dates, I would expect it to come out eventually though.
Yeah, I mean, I for sure think it's coming out. I just don't think it's anytime soon,
I
especially if
think
it
it was
hasn't
stupid for
started
Sony
yet.
to announce it at that event.
Yeah, same thing. Well, it was that and Final Fantasy VII's remake.
Yeah, it was dumb.
Yeah, and that I think Last Guardian was there too.
Well, that came out. Props
Yeah,
to
but
them.
they announced it for like that year, I think, or the
It
next
was
year,
a
right?
really crazy set of announcements.
Yeah, it was like the three big games that everyone's wanted, and
Yeah,
then there
everything
two of them
except for
still haven't
like
happened yet.
Beyond Good and Evil and Half-Life 3 was there.
Yeah, basically.
And now Beyond Good and Evil is happening apparently, so.
But yeah, moving on through this whole list is Uncharted movie news. We got more of
Yay.
that. Yeah, let's try and
Sounds
get through
perfect.
this. So yeah, the first off, you don't think they need to make an Uncharted movie, right?
Like if they wanted to make an Uncharted movie as a place for where Indiana Jones should be right now, and just make a spin-off like that, I'd be fine with it. But I imagine it's just like if it's like an adaptation of one of the first three games or four, it's like I don't really see a place for it.
Or five, if you count Golden Abyss.
Right, right.
But yeah, honestly, I feel like just because of where we are right now, as far as AAA Hollywood movies, or not AAA, not Hollywood movies, big budget blockbuster Hollywood movies go, I feel like if anything's gonna fill the gap of Indiana Jones, it's gonna be the new Tomb Raider.
Yeah, but was Tomb Raider ever like a big Hollywood series? Like I have the Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider DVD, right? But was that ever like a big thing?
I mean people liked them. I just mean as far as pushing something, because I mean as far as it goes with movie audiences, people have something to go on when they say Tomb Raider,
Yeah,
but
sure.
Uncharted is more games industry, you know?
I
Like, I think if something were to be the next Indiana Jones or filling the void of an Indiana Jones type film, I think Tomb Raider has the most potential just because of the recognition with it, plus the cast they
It's a
have
good
behind
cast.
it. It's like a stronger female character they can push as having a movie. And that seems to be a trend recently, which is really cool. And I think Tomb Raider has potential, hopefully, to be the better video game movie adaptation to come out recently.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Resident Evil 7 the other day. It was pretty bad. No, sorry, yeah, it was the seventh movie, Resident Evil Apocalypse, whatever it is. No, the final chapter.
The final chapter.
It was really bad. I hear the Assassin's Creed movie is bad too, but I didn't see it.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet, but yeah, I think. But the story with the Uncharted movie is well, even today there was a development on it, but I'm not sure who's writing it, but I know Joe Carnahan is directing it, right? He's attached to direct it.
I believe he's writing it too.
I know so the story is that there were comments saying that Uncharted needs to be written and approached to as a crazy R-rated action movie.
Yeah.
And when I read that, I thought of every single January Jason Statham straight to DVD movie.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I thought when I read that, and it made me worried.
Yeah, I don't know, because, like, I also feel like Uncharted games shouldn't really be rated T. Like,
that's fair.
you kill a lot of people in those games.
Yeah.
Like, a lot.
That's true.
I don't know. I know there's no, like, gore and stuff, but...
Yeah, and I think... So today, actually, Neil Druckmann, on Twitter, he took a screenshot of a quote from... It might be Carnahan if he is the writer, but the writer of the Uncharted script was saying something along the lines of, I like to think something about Naughty Dog supporting us, or we're fitting with their vision, and then Neil Druckmann responded saying, I really wish that he wouldn't assume that we're behind this, because we're not, which seemed kind of aggressive since it's their own property, and it made me wonder, I don't know who has the distribution rights for an Uncharted movie, if it's Sony or if it's Naughty Dog, because Naughty Dog owns Uncharted, right?
Well, Sony does.
Own Uncharted?
Think, yeah.
Sony owns it?
Well, yeah, PlayStation, Sony, whatever. I believe the divisions within Sony are pretty separate. Like, do you remember, I think when the PS4 got unveiled, right, that was like February 2013, but then they did the PS4 at E3 2 months later, where, remember there was that whole thing about, like, used games and stuff? Like, yes. When they said all that stuff about, oh, you can play used games. There was also a segment in that show where it was like maybe 15 minutes where they brought in a Sony TV guy and said, we're proud to announce that we're working with Sony Pictures and bringing Sony movies to the PS4.
Yeah,
which is like, what? You're announcing you're working with Sony and you are Sony? Like,
yeah, that's
they clearly don't work together, I think, you know?
Yeah, well, it's weird though, because I have no idea how their whole cross promotion works, because I assumed since Sony Pictures owned the rights to Spider-Man, that's why we're getting a Spider-Man game.
I bet you they knew that they were going to do a new Spider-Man game, so that's maybe how they cut that deal to make that game start development faster. Well, I don't know if it was an exclusive, but I bet you, like, that game looks pretty... Yeah, we didn't hear about it for a while, but when we did see it, it looked like it had been worked on for quite some time. So I bet that game was probably started like before we even know that Sony and Marvel closed the deal. I wonder.
Yeah, probably. Because that was, I think that was 2014, January, is when that announcement came out that they were working together to make a Spider-Man movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, there's definitely been time, but yeah, as far as the Uncharted movie goes, I hope it's good, because it would be cool to have Uncharted still be in the zeitgeist of everything, since they are sort of indefinitely putting it on hold right now.
I hope so.
Yeah, so, and if they want to do a movie series, like, have it come out every couple of years while they take a break and just focus on Last of Us and whatever new IP they're doing for their games, it would be cool, but if it does truck on through production and start this summer when it's supposed to start shooting, apparently, then it's probably going to be going up against Tomb Raider in the same year, so it's going to be something to see which one does better. Next up on the PlayStation news list is Mass Effect Andromeda early impressions. Press were able to head over to BioWare and play the first 3 hours or so of Mass Effect Andromeda, and mostly what I've been reading have been completely positive reactions as far as where Mass Effect is going. There are some downsides on the technical side of things, but I read the Alana Pierce article on IGN, which is linked below, and yeah, it seems overall positive.
Yeah, it's looking better than I expected.
I've been kind of trying to stay away from a lot of the Mass Effect news because I want to go in cold with most of this. But I was really curious to see what people thought of it, especially since this is the first sort of decent amount of coverage people could talk about it that wasn't just speculation on how it's going to be. And it looks to be improving on a lot of things core fans have had issue with recently in the series. Gameplay-wise, in an overall spectrum, it seems to be sort of becoming a hybrid between what people loved about 1 and 2, which is awesome to hear.
It has like planet scanning in it, right?
Yeah, planet scanning.
And the Mako is back?
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds crazy.
Yeah, because in 1 it was just the Mako,
Mm-hmm.
2 was just planet scanning, and now they're having both. But
Was planet scanning in 3?
I don't remember.
All right.
But it was definitely in 2.
Yeah, I remember that.
So it seems to be that there are more RPG elements being brought in that were absent in 2 and 3, which is good to hear for people who enjoyed that from Mass Effect 1, just not as deep as it was in Mass Effect 1. And one of my favorite things about Mass Effect have been the loyalty missions and the character interactions, which is awesome to hear that loyalty missions are in this again, and character interaction-wise, they are dumping the Paragon and Renegade system.
Yeah, I think it's time for a change, That sounds good.
Yeah, I think from what it said in the article I read, the black and white Paragon sort of division of options are gone, and I think there's 4 different options, sort of similar to how they do it in Horizon, which is a mental, logical response, an emotional response, a tactical response, and then something else along those lines. And then they have one that pops up now and then, which is just a crazy random one.
So I'm glad they're changing it up. But that stuff sometimes goes bad with, say, Fallout or something. Fallout 4 had some pretty bad responses that had the same kind of emotional thing going for it. I think BioWare is better at writing dialogue, though, than Bethesda is.
Oh, absolutely. And I think... Because the thing is, I never really had that big of a problem with the Paragon Renegade system.
Yeah, sometimes I had some issues with it, but otherwise, though, it's
Yeah,
it was better than most.
I had a pretty good idea of what I was going to say when I made an option and how it was going to come across.
Yeah.
Unlike stuff like Fallout
or LA Noire, yeah.
Taking this approach instead, so you don't accidentally romance someone by saying something. I don't know. I feel like this is a much more dynamic and layered sort of approach to talking, to talking.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, so I hope that works out. But downside of things, it is about 3 or 4 weeks away, and it just went gold, but there are issues, like I said, technical side of things. Nothing with frame rate that I remember reading, but I know there are some bugs, glitches that are going around. I think it crashed for a few people a handful of times. So, I mean, I'm not that worried because they do have time and they can patch it, but...
Could have been an old build too,
Yeah, well, that was another thing, speaking of just what's been going on lately, the Zelda build that people played most recently was from last E3. It wasn't even representing what's they have,
Was it really? Because that seems crazy, but I guess that also makes sense somewhat. I do hear that game does have some performance problems on the Switch. Well, actually, there's a, not to get too off topic, but apparently I heard when the Switch is docked into TV mode, you'll get frame rate issues in the first area of the game sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But then after that, it's all fine. But handheld mode, though, actually it plays the game perfectly well forever.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, well, going on that, though, it's interesting because at the Switch press event after the conference, the demo they had there, according to the people running the event, was just a port of the Wii U demo from E3 last year.
Yeah.
They didn't even create a demo.
They didn't, cut it off of the Switch version of the game.
Right, and I think the embargo for impressions of Zelda lifted either yesterday or today when we're recording this, and I haven't seen as many people saying there's been issues.
I hear there are firmware issues in the first area of the game, yeah. But otherwise, though, it's mostly fine afterwards. I'm curious to see how the Wii U version is. That's like the biggest question to me right now.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. So I hope Mass Effect ends up being amazing. Like I hope it does. But
Yeah, man.
we're gonna be. I'm definitely gonna try to cover that more once that comes out. Try and get Tucker over here from Mass Effect Follower. He can do some stuff with us to talk about Mass Effect Andromeda.
I wonder how that game ends. If it's like a satisfying enough ending, or it's like it's built up to be a whole trilogy, so they'll give you like kind of a crappy half finished ending.
I'm convinced this is going towards a new trilogy, but BioWare
And they know that too.
Yeah, BioWare has said on a few occasions, I'm pretty sure, that it's its own story, it stands on its own, and this doesn't necessarily represent the start of a trilogy. So I really think they're just trying to see how it goes before they say, oh yeah, it is a trilogy.
I hope so, because like, doesn't Shepard die at the end of Mass Effect 1? Like, isn't that how that goes, and then he gets resurrected in the beginning minutes of 2?
No, at the beginning of 2, he dies.
At the beginning of 2, he dies, but then he gets resurrected?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
oh, right. Okay, yes, I remember.
Yeah, so, yeah, I hope Andromeda works out the way I want it to, because it'd be fantastic to have something that good early on in the year on top of everything else.
Yeah, so much stuff coming out, man.
So, speaking of the Nintendo Switch, by the time you're listening to this part of the show, it will be Thursday, March 2nd, just actually the day of the midnight launch of the Switch. So I thought it would be pretty fair to fill this part of the show with the recent leaked patent from 2015 of the new Sony handheld. So, have you seen the image?
I think, yeah, I saw it, right? It's like a tablet with like half of the DualShock on one side of it and the other half on the other side.
Basically. So, the patent is from 2015. Obviously, nothing's happened with it, but it looks exactly like a Switch minus the Joy-Con. Just replace it with a PlayStation version.
Yeah.
So,
are they detachable on this patent?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But not really to talk about if they're going to do this exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But since it is the eve of the Switch launch, this just got released. Obviously, it was no accident. I want to talk about if this could happen at some point. Not so much just this model of a handheld, but PlayStation making another handheld. Because personally, I think they're crazy enough to make another handheld.
Yeah, I don't know, because like the Vita didn't go too well for them, right? Like maybe it did in the software sales, but I remember the hardware numbers weren't exactly as high as they wanted it to be.
Yeah, it wasn't.
And they kind of stopped doing first-party support for it too, right? Like
right.
pretty early on.
The past few years, most of the Vita support has mostly come from Japan, just because
Japan and like indies, Western indies, will often
mm-hmm.
port their stuff over.
Yeah, specifically Atlas and Square Enix have been really good with supporting the Vita.
Totally.
But
and NIS, right?
Yes, yeah, them too. Especially because of the hype behind the Switch. You could either draw that from what it is, or just Nintendo making something that's so what people wanted, which I think that's probably why there's been so much hype behind it. But I think Sony obviously wanted to capitalize on it as at just having the option there, which is why the patent exists. And like I said, I think it was released just to sort of throw a punch at Nintendo and try and see if they could gain interest and see what people's response would be to having a PlayStation-like version of the Switch.
Was it just released just now, like the patent?
I think it was last week.
Last week, but it was registered in 2015?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah, I think Sony's probably looking at the Switch to see how it goes, probably, right?
Yeah.
And then if they want to do it, they will.
Probably. I mean, they're leading, obviously, in this generation sales wise, and
Yeah.
by a decent amount, not anything insane, but like they're clearly ahead.
Hmm.
So they definitely have the opportunity to. I don't think they'd invest a ton of money into it. I think they're definitely going to push forward with VR before they do anything with another handheld. But I don't know. What do you think they'd do as a handheld
Well, I
if they
feel
did
like
one?
if you look at the Switch, right, part of the excitement for that thing comes from the fact that Nintendo is hopefully merging both their both their handheld and console teams onto one platform.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have a consistent release of games. And if you remember, like the problem with the Vita was that Sony was instead caring more about the PS3 and PS4 than the Vita itself. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like maybe there's a situation where we have the PS4 and we have the PS4 Pro. Maybe in a year or two, when those mobile chips get way faster and better, you could potentially see like a base PS4 level Sony handheld. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I honestly don't know, but I
That
that'd be cool.
Yeah, that could be interesting. Where my mind went to immediately when I saw this, and because the patent image released around the same time that PlayStation announced that they were going to stop the service of PlayStation Now on the Vita, and it was either PS3 or PlayStation TV. So I think like where I thought they could go with it is create this PlayStation branded tablet like Nintendo's doing with the Switch and sort of merge the Vita and PlayStation TV into a way that they'd be able to power things on at least the level of a PS3 and have the portability mode that the Switch has that makes it appealing, but work well with their backlog.
Yeah,
Because I think if PS4 Pro is any sign, they're clearly using their regular console to push hardware and like develop things on that front, whereas like to compete with Microsoft. Whereas I think if they did do a handheld, it could benefit from sort of being pushed as an indie machine or like sort of being what the Vita should have been marketed as, because they've definitely learned their lesson at this point. I mean, I hope they did, but if they
well, if
approach,
they learned the lesson, they wouldn't release another handheld, right?
that's true, but like, I mean, I feel like they'd still do it though. Like, there's no reason for them not to do it, because if the Switch sells well and it's a hybrid, I feel like they'd be okay doing a hybrid, especially since they've been pretty okay with supporting um, their hardware after uh, their newer model comes out.
Except with the Vita, where well they just stopped supporting that straight up.
Yeah, well, I mean more along the lines of the home console,
Right.
because I think, what was it?
Well, the PS3 turned around in a real big way, if you remember, right? Like
Mhm.
that had maybe the worst first 2 years of a console,
Yeah.
but then started getting pretty great.
Well, even during that time, the PS2 was still being supported
Yeah, I mean,
by
God of
like,
War 2 came out like March 2007.
yeah, and I think um, MLB The Show stopped being released on PS2 and past 2010, I think.
Oh right, yeah. I think probably like maybe FIFA 2015 probably came out on the PS2, right?
Yeah, there was some crazy year of a sports game that got released on PS2.
They just
So
stopped manufacturing them though. I think like as of like maybe a few years ago.
yeah, so I think if they did take a handheld approach again, I think it would make sense for them to focus on, if it was PS3 level power with the sort of taking the place of what the PlayStation TV is and what the PlayStation Vita is. I think since they had those products out and they kind of supported them, if they merged them together and made it in the portability factor that the Switch has, I think they'd probably consider it, and that's what I got from the patent as far as what it could be. So
I really feel like they'd wait until they have the PS4. They get the PS4 able to work portably, if that's possible. Where I feel like it might be because we were kind of having these conversations about the Switch before launch, before we knew what it was, about what Nvidia and they are doing and stuff with their chips. But I just think Sony doesn't want to support more than one piece of hardware, you know?
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, VR support has been somewhat light, right?
Yeah.
From Sony's side of things, it's been almost non-existent as like aside from
Well, they
firmware
made
updates.
rigs, right? They made rigs and then they closed Gorilla Cambridge. So
Yeah, like what else have they done besides they did VR Worlds? That was
I assume they
Worldwide
closed some of
Studios,
the
right?
deals. Like I assume they got Rocksteady to make Arkham VR. I assume they did Drive Club VR, right? You just mentioned that. And then there was Until Dawn.
And
Farpoint is coming out in a few months, maybe.
Is that a Sony game? Okay. Well, yeah, I think VR wise, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how they support it going forward, because a couple years from now, or when PSVR 2 comes out, I don't think it's going to just be focused on games. I think games are going to be more of a sort of secondary type selling point
For
just
VR.
based on what VR is going to be able to do.
I wonder.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the second model is just called Sony VR
Yeah.
and it's compatible with PlayStation.
There was actually a patent for a new PSVR thing. I don't know if you saw this. It was the other week. Because you know right now the PSVR uses the same technology as the Move controllers to track.
Yeah.
The patent was for the PSVR to move to a more Vive-like system, where you have these infrared emitters over there, and then the headset does the tracking internally, whereas now it's the camera takes the tracking information and puts it out to the headset, which can lead to some pretty bad cases sometimes where it's not tracking 1-1.
Yeah.
So I think that's more of a PSVR 2 thing than an update to the existing one. So I don't know, because right now the tracking is a problem.
Yeah, I think it's going to be definitely interesting to see how VR is handled over the next few months, because I think that's going to give a very good sense as to what PlayStation's priorities are moving forward.
I hope they support the hell out of it, you know?
Yeah, it would definitely be awesome, because
It's
I think
sold
VR,
pretty well, I think. Like, they're constantly selling out of the units they've been making.
Well, remember a couple months ago there was that article that came out that said the reason they haven't been in stock is because of production issues.
Yeah, I mean, these headsets are pretty finicky and small to make, I think. Like, to get those screens or whatever set up and those proper focal lenses, whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
so
it seems like a lot of work.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see how PlayStation approaches.
Because it's selling leagues above the Vive and the Oculus, I believe. And Resident Evil, like, I think 10% of people that played Resident Evil 7 played it in PSVR.
Yeah, I saw that. That was really cool to see.
That's promising, yeah.
I wonder how they're going to approach this next year, though, because right now, both other competitors have new hardware on the horizon. Nintendo has the Switch, Xbox has the Scorpio, PlayStation has nothing right now coming forward.
Well, they just released the Pro and the PSVR, though.
That's true. So
I feel like
I don't know if they need anything, but I definitely think they're going to need, especially if it's not hardware wise of them doing something in the near future, which I don't think they will. They're gonna need some big software titles coming up.
Well, I feel like with Horizon, they're finally making a decent case for why you might want a PS4 Pro. And I feel like for PSVR, we definitely do need to get to that point. So I'm hoping E3 is where they play it. They show us what they have. But if not, I would only start getting worried, though, I'd start getting worried if PlayStation Experience 2017 happens and there's no PSVR mentioned there.
Yeah, because then
That's
it's
where
going to
I'd
be
be
getting
worried.
into
Yeah.
via territory of just sort of putting it on the back shelf.
Yeah.
Because
which they can't do.
Yeah, well, PS4 is sort of set. Like, I'm not expecting a ton on the PS4 side of software announcements at E3 this year, just because of what last year's E3 was.
A lot of like way far out announcements.
Yeah, so I don't really know how they'd do anything else but just follow up on last year.
Yeah, I don't know what is E3 this year. We'll probably get the what's their name? Sucker Punch's game, right?
I'd assume so. That's probably going to be honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if they save that for PSX this year.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It'd be nice if we finally got a date on Dreams, and if that was a PSVR game, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be really cool to see. That could be something that would help to push VR for them, because Dreams, last time they showed it was a while ago, right?
Well, they keep on showing it on Media Molecule's YouTube channel. So they haven't showed it at E3, though, since I think not E3 2015, I think we saw it there.
Okay. Well, yeah, PlayStation has a pretty good year going on ahead of it.
What exclusives do we have this year again? It's like Horizon and...
For confirmed exclusives?
Yeah, just Horizon so far, right?
Horizon, if it didn't already come out, GT Sport.
Oh, right. GT Sport hasn't come out. Yeah, it's probably this year.
It got pushed again, right?
Yeah.
It was supposed to be last fall.
I would think so. Yeah, there's, I don't know. We're expecting... I think, is Neo Sony? Or is that just Koei Tecmo?
Yeah, it's just Koei Tecmo.
Okay.
But I think... I wouldn't be surprised if something like Detroit was fall.
Yeah, totally. I can see that.
Yeah, so if this year for them is just Horizon, GT Sport, and Detroit as far as exclusives goes, then that's decent. It's better than what they've been having the past few years.
Yeah.
But and if they add on top of that Dreams for VR, then I think they're in a good spot to compete with the mindshare of Switch and Scorpio.
Yeah, I wonder what the Scorpio is going to be too. Like, because right now the only software announced for it is like what, Crackdown maybe.
Yeah, I think that's, and I think VR.
Right. I wonder how they're going to push that.
Definitely, this year's E3 is going to be interesting for Sony because Nintendo has their whole everything that hasn't been announced that we know exists for the Switch to be confirmed.
Yeah.
And Xbox has
they have to make
Scorpio.
the case for Scorpio, right?
Yeah. So I have no idea what PlayStation's going to do aside from just software.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it folds. I think it's cool to see Xbox pushing that system out because that should be a decent competitive environment again, you know?
Yeah, and I'm really curious to see how they approach it too. If they're going to try and do what Valve approached with the Steam machine and see if they can do it better. Because
like what, like a PC thing, or like you want it to boot into Windows?
Yeah, actually, because I feel like
That'd be kind of cool.
I feel like since of how this generation has gone, and I think didn't Phil Spencer say it was going to end generations?
Did he?
I'm pretty sure I think he said that at E3. He said this is the console to end generations. So if they take the approach of it just being a PC, that is what the Steam machine could have been, then I think they'll be in a good spot. Just because if PlayStation ends up being the sort of dedicated console, and then Xbox goes after the PC market, and Nintendo's Nintendo, then it's sort of gonna be a lot more dynamic.
If you're gonna sell your Scorpio though, and make the case for E3, and you show like Crackdown on it, is it really gonna be that mind blowing if it also runs on an Xbox One though? Like, what can they do to make the case for the Scorpio if these games are gonna run the same? Because with Sony, they have their PS4 Pro, but they never marketed it in such a way that it was like, you have to get this, because they kind of knew these games wouldn't have a mind-blowing difference.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I don't know. Yeah. I honestly, I bet you Nintendo doesn't even show up with a Direct.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Like, if they do, they'll just have like playable demos of Smash Bros. Around or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, last year they just did all Zelda.
Right. And there was like no Direct.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't need to, go to E3. I feel like they could have just announced like Pokemon like in a small Direct in like August,
Yeah, no, they don't need to go to E3. If anything proved that, it was the Switch conference.
Yeah.
They can stick to directs if they want to.
Yeah.
It's gonna be better for everybody. All right, so that about wraps up the first whole episode of the unnamed official PlayStation podcast for PlayStation Follower. So quickly, I just want to pitch what the channel is and what it's going to be moving forward. If you're new to the channel, PlayStation Follower is a branch of the wider Follower YouTube brand, and here we just discuss all things PlayStation. We talk to you all. We want to get a good community going, talk about our opinions, talk to all of you. We release episodes of the show Monday through Thursday. The whole show posts on Friday. Hopefully we'll be able to get it on iTunes soon, but for now you can get access to it on SoundCloud and listen while you're playing Horizon, or Ghost Recon, or Destiny, or any other game. Throughout the week the show is posted, but we also are going to be making other videos. Highlights of weekly PSN sales, reviews, breaking news, game trailers, and Let's Plays are coming too, and can be found already on the PlayStation Follower YouTube channel. And Omar, if you want to plug our socials, you can go ahead and do that.
Yeah, sure. We're on Twitter. If you want to come follow PlayStation Followers, I think is it PS Followers on Twitter?
Yes.
Okay, PS Followers on Twitter, and on Instagram we're PlayStation Follower. So yeah, feel free to follow, man.
I'm really surprised that we got that.
That's really good. Yeah, that's a good name.
It's weird though, because when I made the account, I'm pretty sure PS Followers was taken on Instagram.
So you think it was taken, then it was given to you?
No, I'm pretty sure PS Followers, like our Twitter name on Instagram, I'm pretty sure it was taken, but PlayStation Follower wasn't. Yeah, I also have my own Twitter. You can follow me at OneUpChun. It's spelled how it sounds. I'll put a link under my name on the video. And yeah, unless there's any closing statements you want to make about what we've talked about, I think that about does it.
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right, well, thank you for watching or listening or doing anything. Subscribe. And we will see you all in the next episode. Greatness awaits.